Once upon a time, beauty and makeup gurus dominated the YouTube landscape. From showing us how to achieve the perfect smoky eye, to teaching us how to highlight and contour, to showing us how to sculpt our eyebrows to perfection, there was no shortage of makeup tutorials to binge watch. Let's face it, most of us millennials learn how to do our own makeup from spending countless hours on YouTube. We all spend so much of our teens and our 20s watching makeup and beauty gurus dish out need-to-know tips and tricks on how to get your makeup to look just as snatched and sculpted as theirs. And many women and girls cling to every word, often forming parasocial relationships with their favorite beauty gurus. But these relationships were soon to dissolve when these beauty influencers that we once admired like they were friends became unrelatable, mega-rich pseudo-celebrities. Now, if you're a millennial or even a Gen Z woman, femme, or queer person, you probably spent a large portion of your college and or high school years binging content from your favorite makeup guru / beauty influencers, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I remember my favorite makeup gurus doing brand deals and sponsorships with any makeup brand, and I would literally run to Sephora or Ulta to try whatever product that they were declaring as the quote must-have product at the moment. And I remember spending countless hours trying to get my eyebrows on fleek. Remember when on fleek was a thing? But I remember spending countless hours trying to get my eyebrows on fleek, and I remember watching all the tutorials that promised to teach you how to stop your concealer from creasing, or whatever foolish hack that they were pushing at the time to get us to use their coupon codes or sponsor products, you name it. So as the years went by though, I personally started to realize that these makeup and beauty influencers were anything but the genuine article. So before beauty and makeup influencers rose to popularity, cosmetic companies would use celebrities to advertise their products.
What more could your lips ask for? Moisture Whip, nourishing lipstick.
One perfect color. One perfect coral, only from Revlon.
You'll look morning fresh, day to night. You'll see.
Maybe she's born with it.
And while celebrity brand deals obviously still occur, aspiring to emulate a popular Hollywood celebrity seemed unattainable to most people. So beauty companies needed a relatable and regular person that was going to tell you how great their products were. Enter the beauty and makeup influencer. Most of us flock to beauty influencers for this very reason, right? They were regular people shooting videos from their modest homes and giving you advice like only a friend would. And there was a time when so many people on YouTube made videos simply for fun without even envisioning that one day it could yield a multi-million-dollar career. And in the beginning of many of these influencers' careers, who largely got their start on YouTube, they were relatable, which is why we believed them when they told us that a product was worth our money. These influencers had so much sway on the public that the mere mention of a product would lead to us flocking in droves to purchase them. Remember when around 2015 or 2016, a bunch of influencers were saying that they used Nivea's men's aftershave as a primer, and the Nivea's men's aftershave literally went viral 15 years after it had originally been launched. Remember when you and every other makeup wearer that you knew had an Anastasia brow kit, a ColourPop lipstick, whatever popular makeup product that was being pushed by influencers at the time? That was literally the moment. They were the influencers and we were the oh so easily influenced. Such a shame. So once being a beauty influencer proved to be a money-making machine, our favorite makeup and beauty gurus started to get offered brand deals and sponsorships. Beauty influencers were getting paid upwards of $20,000 to even $85,000 at a minimum for a single video or Instagram post. And because beauty influencers were being paid thousands upon thousands of dollars to promote products, it motivated them to say that a particular foundation was, quote, the best one they'd ever used, or a particular concealer was, quote, creaseless, or a particular skincare product would prevent you from aging. Being paid astronomical amounts to promote a product ultimately incentivized influencers to lie about the efficacy of the product. I mean, think about it. If a brand paid you $20,000 to $85,000 to simply mention their product or post a picture with their product, like that's pretty easy money. And you would probably be tempted to lie or embellish at the bare minimum, unless you were, of course, a decent person, which there's still some of us out there that are decent human beings, but nevertheless, our favorite makeup gurus that we once looked at as friends in our heads were now salespeople, and we were their prospective clients. And while I do want to point out that some of these products that these influencers were recommending were actually good, okay? How do you think your girl gets this level of beat, okay? I started with a fundamental knowledge of makeup, and I want to thank them for that. Like, I would not know how to do this if it was not for them. But it slowly started to become more and more evident that our favorite relatable influencers had been sold with time. Some brands even went as far as to pay influencers to bash competitors, and influencers also began to praise products and brands without disclosing the fact that they were being paid to do so at this point in time. YouTuber Marlena Stell, who is the CEO of Makeup Geek, uploaded a video entitled My Truth Regarding the Beauty Community in 2018, where she detailed the insidious and nefarious practices that many influencers and cosmetics brands were engaging in. She said that she had not been supported by many popular influencers because she couldn't afford to pay them the fees that they were asking for. So ultimately, influencers were chiefly concerned with how much money they were going to make, not by how effective, or not with rather, how effective a product that they were advertising was. Makeup artist Kevin James Bennett praised Marlena for her honesty in the video, and he made a lengthy Instagram post of his own exposing the shady practices of the online beauty industry. And in his post, he wrote, "I'd like to thank Marlena Stell for having the courage to publish a YouTube video exposing what's going on behind the scenes in the cosmetic industry. I've attempted to shed light on the mobster-like behavior of top-level beauty influencers and their management, and I've been accused of jealousy, called a liar, and a hater." Fact. A brand I consulted with asked me to inquire about working with a top-level beauty influencer. The influencer's management offered me these options. And he goes on to list all of the options that were offered to him. So number one, $25,000 for a product mention in a multi-branded product review. Number two, $50,000 to $60,000 for a dedicated product review. Price determined by the length of the video. Number three, $75,000 to $85,000 for a dedicated negative review of a competitor's product. Price determined by the length of the video. Number four, a minimum 10% affiliate link or code to use on Instagram and YouTube. Yes, option three is legit, he says. Payment to damage the competition's business. I told you, it was mob-like behavior. The demands and threats of influencers and their management have got to stop. The lack of disclosure by top-level influencers is fraud, and it's time for the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, to step in, to start charging fines and shut this BS down. To the followers and subs who still refuse to believe that their idols are thugs, pull your head out of your favorite beauty influencers, you know what, and see what's actually going on in the industry. Very passionate words from Mr. Kevin James Bennett. In April 2017, the Federal Trade Commission sent warning letters to influencers and celebrities, reminding them to clearly and conspicuously disclose relationships to brands when posting on social media. And the FTC's endorsement guides recommended using words like promotion, sponsored, paid ad, or hashtag ad, which is why you often see these kinds of disclosures on sponsored content nowadays. But there's of course no real way of knowing if a post is sponsored or a video is sponsored, because to this day, many influencers still fail to disclose this. So without knowing all of these shady practices were occurring, many of us were flocking to buy these beauty products based on recommendations from our favorite influencers, only to find out that many of these super expensive products that they were recommending were no better than products that you could find at CVS, Walmart, or whatever your local drugstore was. And some of these products were even far worse than what you'd find at the drugstore. The veil of beauty was only further lifted when popular makeup and beauty influencers found themselves embroiled in scandals that were revealing that they were being less than honest. And this is a non-exhaustive list that I'm about to go through right now because we could literally make a whole video out of influencer scandals, but you know, we got other things to do. So in 2018, YouTuber Jaclyn Hill released her very own lipstick line, which was met with widespread criticism. Upon receiving their lipstick, customers reported finding fibers and debris embedded in their lipstick. So gross. Some people even said that their lipstick arrived either melted, broken, or just completely warped. Jaclyn at first was super defensive and dismissive of the criticism, but ultimately, we'll give her this, she did end up issuing refunds to customers because it was so widespread at this point. But many people felt the damage was already done and the seeds of distrust were now sown. A conversation about beauty influencers scandals would be remiss without mentioning the king of scandals himself, James Charles. Aside from the Tati Westbrook saga, discriminatory comments, allegations of predatory behavior, and the plethora of other scandals that James Charles has found himself embroiled in, I need to take a breath. That was a lot. The Morphe palette scandal in particular peeled back yet another layer of beauty influencer insincerity. In 2018, James Charles announced that he was releasing his very own eyeshadow palette in partnership with the makeup brand Morphe. But in the video he posted showing off swatches, James rubbed his finger into the eyeshadow only for the video to jump cut to swatches that he already had on his arm, leading many viewers to jump to the very obvious conclusion that he had pre-swatched that onto his arm, or that wasn't the legitimate product, that was another eyeshadow product that he had on his arm. And obviously, again, this caused quite the stir. So he ended up doing another Instagram live though, showing off the swatches of the eyeshadow without the jump cut amid the controversy. Oh, and remember those predatory accusations I mentioned earlier? Last year, Morphe ended their relationship with James after accusations emerged that the influencer had sent several sexual messages to underage boys. As the slew of scandals kept swarming around James Charles, it became increasingly evident that the beauty and influencer industry was imbued with dishonesty and backstabbing. Again, I could sit here forever going through a laundry list of scandals that influencers found themselves in the middle of, but if you're watching this video, you probably are already well aware of all of those, so no need to rehash that. But here is a lightning round of scandals, because I don't want to make this video into a whole documentary. So outside of the ones I already mentioned, we have Jeffree Star's Harry highlighter, Zoe Suggs' $50 advent calendar, Huda Katan's allegedly stealing her Easy Bake line from a Black woman-owned business, Laura Lee and Manny Gutierrez, aka Manny MUA, heading to a Morphe store to buy an arsenal of new makeup brushes that they were actually, in fact, gifted for free. Read about them on your own time using the link in the description box. Now, following the influx of scandals that were swarming around these beauty influencers, they started to lose their credibility, relatability, everything that originally attracted us to them. And personally, I started to realize that the lies didn't stop at the products that they were showing off. While these beauty influencers were trying to sell us beauty in the form of makeup and skincare, I don't know why I said it like that, makeup and skincare, that was only a small fraction of their true source of beauty. The real reason why these influencers looked so beautiful was because their wealth provided them with access to plastic surgery, top-tier estheticians, personal chefs, trainers, things that I talk about all the time on my channel. And if you haven't seen those videos, you should definitely subscribe so you can hear more about content like that. But nevertheless, I digress. In addition to that, They were using a live Photoshop technique in the form of really elaborate lighting and filters that they were using on their videos that made them appear to be even more beautiful. You know, so many of us have been there where you're like, you're trying to do your makeup. I've been there and you're like, hey, why do I not look as snatched as these influencers do? And this is exactly why, because it's not, you can buy all the products they recommend until the cows come home. You'll never look like them though, because makeup alone is not the true source of their beauty. Makeup artist Wayne Goss exposed this live Photoshop technique when he made a video of himself using a software that he discovered that many of his peers had been using to make themselves appear drastically different in videos.
And it's basically living Photoshop. And I bought one, and I'm going to show you what it looks like now. There you go. There is nothing on my skin. All that has happened is I've added a filter and it has bleached out my skin to such an extent and smoothed it. And the funny thing about this is I can manipulate this. I can make it more or less or do anything I want. And it costs like £100, something like that. And it is so fundamentally wrong.
Once many of our favorite YouTubers achieved widespread success, they often shifted their persona and their aesthetic and their brand in general to one that was more rooted in showing off their luxurious lifestyles. They became more and more detached from the realities of the average person that they started off as when they started their channels, and they became solely focused on showing off their designer accessories and their clothing, fancy cars, and McMansion homes. They ultimately became vociferous capitalists, building their lifestyles off of excess and conspicuous consumption. Take Jackie Aina, for instance. Just a few months ago, Jackie Aina, whose public-facing career started on YouTube, where she dished out Black girl-friendly makeup tutorials and went on to become a key advocate in inclusivity in the beauty industry. After achieving widespread mainstream success though, Jackie began to upload less videos on YouTube and rebranded herself as a Black girl luxury influencer on other social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of the above. Jackie recently found herself embroiled in a scandal though when she launched her candle line in Sephora and opted to name one of her candles after a rallying cry phrase that was used during the End SARS movement, which was a movement that was started in 2020 to raise awareness about police brutality against Nigerian civilians. And social media, of course, erupted with many people saying that the name choice was disgraceful. And, you know, there was a lot of discourse about how Nigerian Americans exploit their Nigerian nationality, or I guess ethnicity, when it's convenient for them. Ultimately, Jackie ended up pulling the candle from the shelves amid the outrage. And this was yet another shining example of how beauty gurus were completely detached from the realities of poor, marginalized, everyday communities. And at this point, we're no longer the friends in our heads that we once thought of them to be. Now, I do want to point out that being successful is obviously something to be celebrated, and obviously someone's personality is going to shift once they have a significant change in their income. However, the issue for me is that these influencers' whole personality types became centered on being rich. All of their brand was centered on living these luxurious lifestyles and curating this faked, perfected lifestyle on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all of the above, all of the social media platforms. And ultimately, in order for them to be an influencer, there was a hierarchy of I'm rich, you're poor, therefore I'm going to influence you by making you jealous of all of the riches and wealth and luxury that I have access to and you don't. While the beauty community has largely died out due to distrust and just overall fatigue, these same issues persist on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. Are we still using Snapchat? Personally, haven't used that since I was in my extremely early 20s, like literally like 21. I think that was the last time I used Snapchat. But nevertheless, filters are still so commonplace on these apps. Filters commonly used by influencers on these apps completely mystify what's real from what's fake. And because influencers are less than honest about the true source of their beauty. Women and girls developed unrealistic standards for what their faces and bodies should look like. And another problem, especially for me, is that the sense of what is beautiful is so homogeneous. Nowadays, everybody has the same face. All of these influencers have the same face of this brat style like aesthetic with overfilled lips, frozen face, Botox, BBL, and thigh gaps. And it's spilling out of the Hollywood, LA scene and into the normal scene at this point. And normal everyday girls want to look like this because of this aesthetic that was perpetuated and now what seems to be at least temporarily here to stay. And it's really disconcerting because it's not even for me. Like, it's not, the problem isn't that people are getting plastic surgery in such astoundingly large numbers. The problem is that there's this one aesthetic that everybody is chasing after, and there's no more individualism. You know, at least if people are getting different things done, I would feel differently, but it's like literally people can't think for themselves anymore because influencers have decided that this is the look. This is the look that you want to aspire to. And I just find that to be personally very disconcerting. Now, psychiatrist Dr. Helen Egger said in a Forbes article that these face filters are using algorithms to reinforce a certain standard of beauty that is very narrow. That standard, Instagram face, which is characterized by high cheekbones, poreless skin, cat eyes, and plump lips. The conflation of diversity into a single look worries Dr. Egger, and she says that it doesn't support individuality, just like I just said, and it supports conformity with what the standard of beauty is. 55%, a staggering 55% of plastic surgeons in 2018 reported that their patients' surgeries were motivated by a desire to look better in selfies. What a time to be alive. But most people don't look like this in real life because most people don't have access to and will never have access to the amount of wealth that these influencers do. Hello, capitalism 101. For them to be rich, the rest of us, we gotta be poor. And the curated beauty influencer image that you see online is ultimately not real. It's super important to follow people that look like you and that bring you joy and relatability and not insecurity. And I just want you all to know that while many of these beauty influencers have, you know, they've proved to be so untrustworthy, there are still so many girls, young women and girls that still, you know, are admiring them, and the impact that they've left is it's still lingering because they've only migrated from one platform to another. But nevertheless, there's still some really awesome influencers that I personally love, like Stephanie Yaboa and Jillian Mercado and Blair Imani and Lauren Lolo Spencer, just to name a few off the top of my head that I really encourage you to follow because they don't perpetuate these toxic beauty standards. I'd say above all, many influencers and brands take advantage of our insecurities. And when you flood yourself with images of faked perfection, when you look in the mirror and you look at your own face, your own regular face and body with acne and hyperpigmentation and stretch marks and cellulite and scars and features that real people have in real life, you start to feel insecure because you feel like you don't look perfect, but perfection does not exist. I just want you all to please divorce yourself from the idea that you need to keep following people who make you feel just insecure and that just make you feel bad about yourself. And please also, most importantly, divorce yourself from stan culture and parasocial relationships with people you've never met. I'm not a mental health expert, but you don't exactly need to be a mental health professional to know that worshiping someone that you've never met is mental illness. Stan yourself, stan your mom if she's a good mom, stan your dad if he's a good dad, which they're really hard to find, so congratulations if you have one. Stan your children, stan your man, your woman, stan the people that you know, but just don't stan a celebrity or influencer. It's incredibly hard, and you know, none of us are perfect. I know for me, I still, You know, even, you know, with the profession that I have of like talking to the camera and seeing yourself on camera, and you're like, oh, but my makeup doesn't, my lipstick, it doesn't look perfect enough, or my eyeshadow doesn't look perfect enough, or this doesn't look perfect enough, my skin is oily, my this is that. And you know what? I'm done with that battle. I'm done waging that battle. Even for me, I have recorded videos like in 3, 4, 5 takes just to get them right, because I'm like, I feel like I don't look good enough. But that's just the problem. That's just playing into this trope of perfection that has never been real and has never truly existed, that these influencers have been able to capitalize on by deluding us into thinking so. So I just want you all to take away that everything that you see online is not real. I'm not the first or the last person to say this, and I just want you to just take everything you read online with a grain of salt, and please don't worship not even the makeup influencers, the Instagram models, and everybody else who is projecting this aesthetic. And it's really disconcerting to me that even nowadays, everyone's wearing the same clothes. They're posing the same. As I said earlier, they're looking the same. They have the same bodies and faces. Women of different races and ethnicities are all emulating the same unrealistic beauty standard. And I just made this video because I think it's high time that stopped. So anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you feel inspired and motivated. And if you do, definitely give this video a like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.